Good evening, everyone. Again, we are extremely sorry. Welcome to the session. The title of this session is Beyond the Belt and Road, China's Strategic Ambition and the Future of BRICS. Now, I would like to introduce you to our speaker of the session, Shruti S. Patnaik, Research Fellow, Manohar Parrikar Institute for Defense Studies and Analysis, India. Wu Lin, Associate Professor, Institute of Asian Studies, China Foreign Affairs University. Yoshikazu Kato, Research Fellow, Rakuten Securities Economic Research Institute, Japan. And at the last, our moderator, Victoria Panova, Head of BRICS Bird Council, Russia. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Well, you took part of my responsibility off me, so introducing our wonderful panel of speakers. And indeed, I'm hoping that we'll have a very lively discussion. Let me start with thanking the organizers for having this wonderful event and taking up BRICS as one of their issues. Probably next time there will be much more time dedicated to this gathering out of this group, because it is gaining weight, and we're seeing that in fact BRICS is, despite all their discussions, despite all their very, very important articles from very important thinkers, especially from the Western countries, has been alive, kicking, and in fact kicking more and more. In a good way, though. BRICS is, in fact, offering some new model of cooperation between the countries, model of economic growth, model of social, achievement of social well-being, and model of possibility of equal, mutually respectful cooperation between people, not just between the leaders. And this is very important. This is not to mention a number of already concrete deeds, concrete projects and programs that's been offered by the BRICS, agreed by the BRICS, and that started their functioning. Of course, a lot still has to be done. But nevertheless, it is an important element of this very turbulent world order, and probably a promising endeavor for it, in a way. But this session, as suggested by organizers, is not only dedicated to BRICS as it is, but rather to Chinese role within it and a number of initiatives that are offered by China to the world recently. In a funny way, we could say China is a new arising hegemon or leader, choose the word, whichever context you prefer, positive or negative. But nevertheless, it is true that China has been leading, despite a number of obstacles posed, a number of initiatives, not just BRI, which is far beyond logistics and far beyond Eurasian continent. It's infrastructure development, it's social development, achievements of SDGs in different continents. But also China has been one of the proponents of BRICS. And I know a person who once, at the very beginning, said, okay, Russia and China are mama and papa of BRICS. Well, being part of this BRICS for quite some time, I would not say this is true, since every country, and nowadays not only the founding ones, but even the newcomers, they take very active stance in it, and that is why it is alive and developing further. But nevertheless, what is leading China? What are their Chinese strategic goals behind the fact of introducing those initiatives? and what kind of world China wants to see. So, Willing, the floor is yours.
First of all, I would like to say thank you for the host to come to Bangladesh the second time. Last year, I also participated in this big event. So before I came to Bangladesh, I thought Trump of America would be the most hot issue in this year's conference. So I'm really happy to see we have take a lot of attentions also on on global South, on BRICS, also China's role in this turbulent world. So I'm happy to share some of the views about China's role in the new world. Actually, many people know a lot of initiatives by China, right? BRI and also a community of community of shared future of humankind, right? A lot of concepts, a lot of initiatives. But I would like to share with you about a new idea put forward by the Chinese central government of last year in the Conference of Foreign Affairs of central government in the end of 2023. A new concept has been put forward, that is to build an equal and orderly multipolar world and a universally beneficial and inclusive economic globalization. So this shows China's new vision of the global governance. One is multipolarization, right? This is more in the political aspect. We want this multipolar world to be more equal and more orderly. What does it mean by equal? It has three aspects of meaning. First one is equal rights for all the countries. Second one is equal opportunities. We know many countries couldn't get the opportunities to develop, right? Sustainable development. There's an analysis I saw recently. They said SDGs by the UN, right? The goal can only be achieved by only 17% in 2036. That means it can't achieved. The SDG can't achieved. So how the underdeveloped countries to be developed in the future? So this is a big issue. So equal opportunities. The third one is equal rules. So what does it mean? Rules should be equal to all the countries, not just led by the big ones, right? And the orderly, what does it mean? Orderly. First one, to uphold the UN Charter. A UN Charter is the main rules of the whole global order. And also we should strengthen the UN-centered international order. So that's why we should push forward the UN reform. So this is also a very important part of the orderly means. And also globalization. We know Trump has came back. So which means deglobalization and anti-globalization will speed up. So China's vision is we should to push forward globalization process, not the opposite. So we need free trade. We need more inclusive to let all the countries to choose their own road to modernization, and also beneficial to let all the countries to engage and share the outcome of economic development. So I think these are the new visions of China's vision to the global governance, and that's why China has put a lot of attention and enthusiasm in BRICS. This very important global governance mechanism led by emerging countries and developing countries. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Can you hear me? So we know that, I'm not sure it works, does it? So we know that China and India are not always on their very best and friendly terms. But we've also seen the situation, like a real breakthrough in Kazan, when the two leaders, President Xi and Prime Minister Modi, sat together and agreed on their way forward. They struck an agreement. Let's hope that it will be honored. But this opens also a very good future for two countries, and in fact, a possibility to achieve this new order or world order, or let's say repair it in accordance with each country's sovereign interests. How comfortable do you see yourself, India, as Indian, going along with how China sees the world, how much it coincides with your vision, and how much you're prepared to go ahead within the BRICS?
Hello, I hope I'm audible. I think very good question. When one looks at especially this breakthrough which came in Kazan, created a kind of hope for India that, especially the pessimists who have been writing obituary of the BRICS, that, it consists of members and some of them really have interests which actually does not gel with each other, especially in the context of India and China. But I think with the transformation of the global order, and there are multiple centers that is coming up. So on the one hand, you see the transformation is also marked by competitive kind of blocks in terms of, like, for example, it is always seen China and Russia coming together is seen as, in a sense, challenging the Western dominated global order. But also at the same time, from the Indian perspective, India also is part of a multipolar world order, prefers a multipolar world order. It would not like any world order to be dominated by one particular power. And in the context of Asia, of course, there are many areas which China and India, they compete in terms of the leadership, especially the Southeast Asia. You can see the contest some of the time appears to be, in a sense, contradictory. But also at the same time, I would also like to say that in terms of this multilateral forum that has come up, which many term it as minilaterals, we saw a successful SCO summit followed by the BRICS summit. And in fact, the membership of BRICS currently has been limited, but the fact that many countries are interested to join BRICS also shows that, it has the potential, unlike how it is expected. But given, the currently, between India and China resolving, the long drawn kind of conflict over the border, I think it is a good sign in terms of, the movement of any multilateral organization. Because if you have a kind of competition and contradiction in your approach, how you look at the global order, that actually will be problematic. So I think when one looks at BRICS, and also in the context of that this resolved the long-standing the border dispute. But I would also like to say, there was work in progress. It's not that, the Modi-ji meeting which took place in Kazan was just, they met and they resolved. But there was a lot of groundwork that was happening between the two countries. So having said that, I would say, this is significant. How India looks at Chinese-led order, there are many areas where India and China can work. For example, we have seen in COP, the two countries have come together on climate issues, especially how the West looks at the climate change and industrialization. And second, on the issue, both China and India, they believe in multilateralism. They believe in a multipolar global order. So that is the second thing which both the countries they agree. Third is that there is also a lot of the economic cooperation between India and China. We all know that the trade between the two countries is more than $100 billion. But if you look at the India-China model, the India-China model is that while there is a difference of opinion on how to resolve the border dispute, because India and Bhutan are the only two countries left with whom China continues to have, the border problem. So therefore, I would say that in spite of these differences, the trade also have grown over the period of time. Of course, there will be a kind of, how China will look at India's cooperation in Indo-Pacific and being a member of Quad along with Japan, and also at the same time India's own relationship with Russia. So there is a kind of balance where India has always tried to say that it is strategic autonomy. It will make the choice with which country it is going to, have what kind of relationship. It will not be dictated by what the West thinks is it in its interest. So therefore, I would say that that elbow room India will always keep and shape its own relationship with other countries depending on its own interest rather than being dictated by the West. So I think there is a lot of similarities in this particular approach between India and China. So therefore, I would say that two countries will have several opportunities to work together. Differences will remain, but nevertheless, I think there are several issues where the two countries can work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And indeed, that's something the most probably countries value most about BRICS, that they could be having their pragmatic approach in line with the national interests of their own, not dictated by the outsiders. It doesn't matter from west, east, south, north, anywhere. And definitely that is why, and you mentioned it, we have this kind of huge queue of countries that are willing to become partner countries or member countries of the gathering. And indeed, we heard a lot over those days, like almost 2 days. In this particular conference, the climate is one of the biggest issues that is important for the global south. And indeed, despite there are differences, but BRICS countries are very well approaching and in fact going ahead with the major principles that they would like to be taken ahead with them. So thank you so much. But we also have Japan, which is in a way odd man out in this group because Japan in a way is a Western country in the East and let's say northern country in the global South. So how much, and you also have rather difficult at times relations, probably following, I don't want to say directions, but following the line of their, of the Western world in some instances. How much does it go in hand with your own interests, and how much you also see the vision provided by China and more globally by BRICS or BRI? You're neither member of it, of neither of which.
Yeah.
So how do you see Japan going ahead with that? And do you see probably a more pragmatic role more useful for you, or what's your stance?
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for the host and speakers and audience for joining us in this evening. Somebody's already, started drinking, but just relaxing to, enjoy. And I have just been offered wine, but I rejected. But anyway, as Victoria, you said, Japan is neither the member of BRI, nor the member of BRICS. So Japan could be said an outsider of this topic. So, as a Japanese, or from a Japanese perspective, I am basically thinking in terms of, how to seek any implications for Japan and the West. And as you said, Japan is the so-called Western countries located in Asia. So we always seek whatever, our history is described anyway, right? It's very complicated, but, we need to seek some balance. We need to pursue some bridge, maybe between the West and the East. I think this is a kind of responsibility of Japan, right? And in terms of, how do we understand the BRI, launched by President Xi Jinping? And I think, BRI is not only economic or, financial, but more strategic. I think this is a kind of typical product of Xi Jinping's major power diplomacy. Because I studied in Beijing back to 2005. At that time, Chinese professors in international relations, talked about major power diplomacy, like our diplomacy with major powers, like the United States, Russia. But nowadays, it's shifted. Today, the major power diplomacy for the Xi Jinping administration is the diplomacy adds major power, from with to adds. It's a very important shift. So it's a basis of our understanding on China's diplomacy. And when it comes to BRI, BRICS, we should understand and analyze in this framework. So what is the strategic ambition on the BRI? My understanding is it would be the four process. One is expanding its influence economically. BRI, like connectivity, infrastructure, economic, people-to-people exchange, number one. Number two, creating more friends, so-called friends. And third, make them respecting China's core interests, including Taiwan, the South China Sea. Fourth, finally, eventually, guaranteeing the legitimacy of the Chinese Communist Party. This is the objective of Xi Jinping's major power diplomacy. I don't know, but it's correct. So I think we need to understand today's topic in this framework, in my perspective. But for Japan's national interests, I think engagement matters. Engagement. How to deal with the BRI or expansive BRICS. Because I think one very important point is BRICS anti-West? Actually, no. Non-West or anti-West or in between. I do not think this is anti-West, including China. China is not against the West, but try to find some way to deal with the West. Of course, now, including G7 or other, including some framework, we are unprecedentedly divided. We cannot see any, united interest like BRICS. So engagement matters. Engagement matters. And let me looking back to former Prime Minister Abe, unfortunately assassinated a couple of years ago, and Shinzo Abe's basic stance toward BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative. Shinzo Abe, at once said, for Japan's engagement with the BRI, he spoke of the possibility for cooperation between Japan and China in the BRI. He provided four preconditions: transparency, openness, economic viability, and soundness of debtors' nations financing. So if your project, pushed by BRI could guarantee these preconditions, we can cooperate. Not comprehensive, but we can try. I think this should be Japan's basic stance to this framework, led by the West. So I think this is very important, engagement. So now, maybe you know much more about that, but the BRI just, held the latest summit in Russia, and 36 countries attended. And based on 5 previous members and former members like Egypt, Iran, UAE, and Ethiopia, and 13 partners, including Turkey, Indonesia, Vietnam, Nigeria, very important country. So we shouldn't neglect. Japan should not neglect the BRICS. But at the same time, how can we understand the BRICS? It is only one. unprecedentedly diversified. Could BRICS be united? Or could expansive BRICS be united? If not, how can we manage that? But now, maybe it's too early to say. But anyway, for Japan's engagement to the BRI or BRICS, we need to pursue some ways, pragmatic ways, to manage the relation with BRICS itself and each countries in BRICS. Because China, India, Russia, their impact of world economy or geopolitical, confrontation or context, it's very important, increasingly important. So, as the Western nation in Asia, in the East, Japan need to pursue some pragmatic ways to deal with the BRICS and develop each diplomatic ties pragmatically. I think this is only the way. And finally, I'm personally quite interested in Bangladesh's position, because this time I could feel your relatively strong, desire or embracement of BRI. BRI created a lot in Bangladesh. Of course, Japan has been doing a lot in Bangladesh as well. But at the same time, I know last year Bangladesh launched its own Indo-Pacific strategy. So how could you take some balance between the BRI? Of course, this is not confronted, but BRI is there, and FOIP, Free and Open Indo-Pacific, is there. They're going on simultaneously. So how the Bangladesh deal with that? I'm quite curious about that. Just raising some questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And we're having now a new model of conversation, speakers asking questions to the audience. But you also raised a very important issue that each and every BRICS country, no matter how bad relations or how good relations are with either of the Western countries, everybody recognizes it is not anti-West, never would be anti-West. It is just non-West. That's it. But that taken, and you also mentioned their expansion. Let me now turn back to Ms. Wu Lin and see how China is going, because you've been behind most vocal proponents of this expansion and suggesting that more countries should become part of it. Of course, we're diverse, and some outside observers, including inside observers as well, raise the question how much coherence it will bring about. So in this expanded format, what do you see are the main reasons and main areas where BRICS should be going to and where it could succeed best?
Okay, thank you for the question. Actually, people asking about whether BRICS process is sustainable and whether the countries are united, given by the China-Indian competition relations, right? And I think if we look back of the history of BRICS, we can see this mechanism is not driven by one identity or one culture or something like that. I think it's driven by crisis. In 2008, we know the global financial crisis promoted these emerging economies to think what we should do to maintain the financial stability of the whole world, right? So the BRICS, the 4 countries, they united together for the first summit, right, in 2009. And South Africa joined in 2011, right? So after that, we can see the new development bank has been set up, and also President Xi Jinping initiated BRICS Plus, this kind of a new corporate cooperation model to let more developing countries to join dialogue with the BRICS. So for now, why BRICS become a buzzword of the world? I think maybe it's a very important crisis is Russia-Ukraine conflict. In the background of this conflict, the United States overuse its economic sanctions to Russia, and also to make the economic, the international economic to be more turbulent. So many developing countries couldn't respond properly. They meet a lot of challenges about high inflation and also high price of oil, right? So I think they have to do something. So this is kind of a new crisis for many developing countries, what they could do. So they have to respond by their own to be more, allied with the multilateral groupings, for example, BRICS. So that's why we can see a lot of developing countries, they uphold the strategic autonomy, right? They want more representatives in the global governance mechanisms. So that's why BRICS has been become more popular, right? So I think this is driven by crisis. So what's the future? Does it only driven by crisis? I think crisis in Chinese context, it means not only challenges, but also opportunities. So I'm cautiously optimistic about this grouping to be more practical and more to let more countries to be inside this grouping, and to also to find some ways to coordinate with many regional organizations like ASEAN, like BIMSTEC. Yes, and also I think we can also find some ways to coordinate with G7, G20, right? So to become a bridge between global South and global North.
Okay, so that's a new vision, like a bridge. So what is, let's say, what is India's view? What India wants of the expanded BRICS? What hopes it lies and puts into it?
I think I would say that at present, of course, the membership has been freezed. In the future, they're going to take up the membership issue again. From South Asia, some of the countries had applied. For example, Sri Lanka was very disappointed that the membership was not taken up. But I think expansion of BRIC is a good idea, but also at the same time it needs to be taken that what are the values the member state are going to bring in to the organization, because many a time we keep on speaking about that it should not end up being a kind of talk shop, which some of the multilateral organizations have become. So therefore, I would say that currently, yes, most of the countries, those have come in, especially Iran and UAE, they do have their economic muscle. So as BRICS is mostly seen as a kind of economic grouping, of course, it also has the geostrategic value in terms of, how the global politics evolves. Though many of the criticism is that since the Western countries are not part of the BRICS, so perhaps the criticism is this, that this is an organization which really does not have any future. I really do not agree with that kind of view, because I think these small groupings have more potential to make an impact on some of the issues they have taken up, because you have less friction or disagreement on any of the issues, because within any smaller group it is always easier to reach an agreement. So from the Indian perspective, while the expansion of the BRICS may wait, but also at the same time the value some of the members, new members who have been brought in, probably needs to be put into use. Though of course there is this talk about the BRICS bank. De-dollarization is again a very ambitious kind of project which BRICS speak of. I don't think the time for de-dollarization has come, but also at the same time the sanction and all, especially two of the member countries are under Western sanction, Russia and Iran. So that actually it makes it a little difficult for other countries to move on. But as you specifically, since you asked about the expansion of the BRICS, I think at the moment I would say from the Indian perspective that perhaps an expansion right now would not help if you look at the objectives of the BRICS. Though it speaks of the global south, but then again, the more member you bring in, I really do not know, how then the organization move forward on the core issues they have agreed. Especially, the BRICS countries speak of sustainable growth, inclusive growth, and there is also this talk this time during the BRICS summit about the emerging markets and developing countries. So therefore, these issues are significant. So I would say very directly, expansion at the moment, no.
Okay, thank you so much. Although I didn't get from either of you the area where you think BRICS should matter and what is most interesting, but maybe there will be more questions from the audience later on. So my question now would be to you. We already mentioned that BRICS is not anti-West, and you said that, you agree with that. But for some reason, by many observers, from the West, it is seen as a threat, while it is not. So how do you see Japan, and maybe if there could be a consensus reached within the G7, that how more cooperation and what could be a positive and win-win cooperation established with the BRICS countries, and what could be those areas?
Thank you so much for a great question. And I was listening this discussion, and one question comes up with my mind, and what the expansion of BRICS mean? Does it mean more integration or more fragmentation? Because looking at G7, Japan is a part of that, and Russia used to be G7. We know it is pretty difficult to unite the interests, pursue common interests, even in G7. Don't say G20, right? In G7, Canada, United States, Japan, or sometimes it depends on Democrats or Republican, Trump or Biden. It's very complicated. And then Japan, our politics in transition, and France, Germany, Italy, Canada, different, even in G7. So in terms of previous speaker said membership, we don't know what is the best number of the member, 7, 20 or more. It is very tough question for us. So back to your question, would expanding BRI threaten, even replace the West-led world order? At the moment, unlikely. And I do not think most of the countries or members of BRICS expect that the BRICS, expansive BRICS could replace the West-led world order. I do not think that. Even China, China's reform and opening up policy since the late 1970s. Actually, that policy has heavily relied on the West-led world order. If not free trade, if there are no international organization or a free trade mechanism created by the West, I do not think China could be today's rising emerging economy. So I do not think I do not think the replacement is matter. It's too early to say. So, but as I said, BRICS or the members of BRICS, each members are very much important, including China, India, and Russia, and other countries like now is a partner of the BRICS: Turkey, Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand. These countries, each country are very important, and they are pursuing its own way to take balance between the BRICS, this side, and the West, and wait and see how the major power politics are going on, and how the war could be ended. So now geopolitical and economic, situations, circumstances are still very much complicated. So a lot of countries are in between. They are not take stance, not take position. It's too early to take. That's why I think for BRICS, as a part of the G7 member, be careful. I want to say be careful. Don't to rush. Don't to be rush to expand your own membership or rushly enhance its influence in international order. It might be dangerous. So do your job well. The first, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. I think it's high time to open the floor to the audience for the questions for Q&A. So, yes, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'm Ashok Sajanhar. I come from India. I'm the former ambassador of India to a few countries. Thank you very much to all the panelists for their very interesting comments. First comment, possibly, as I sit here and I see the title of our discussion today, China's strategic ambitions and the future of BRICS. Surely the future of BRICS does not depend upon one country's strategic ambitions. I think all the countries which are members will contribute, whether it's Russia, whether it's India, or the others. So I think that possibly we need to keep in mind. The second is, there are, as we've been talking, there is a rebalancing that is taking place in the world. There are a number of different poles that are emerging. So it is becoming a multipolar world as the influence and the competence and the agency of different countries are increasing. So I think different poles will play their role in the context of BRICS as also outside. Now, since whatever I've heard today, I'm just commenting on that. It's mentioned that we need to, as far as China's strategic ambitions are concerned, we need to preserve the sustainable development goals. One of the most valuable of the SDGs is in terms of environmental protection, climate change. Now, if we look at China's track record, more than 30% of the global greenhouse gas emissions come from China. Now, that is not an ambition that should be replicated. I think action needs to be taken somewhere there. There's a mention following the rule of law, United Nations Charter. We have in the South China Sea the Permanent Court of Arbitration in July of 2016 gave a ruling that all these China's claims in the South China Sea are not acceptable. They were rejected. But still, China continues on that, continues to militarize the islands, which according to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, 1982, they belong to other countries. And it keeps on creating new artificial islands and militarize them. So I think if we want to follow the United Nations Charter, then the ruling of the Permanent Court of Arbitration, that definitely needs to be followed. Also comment was made about the UN reform, but it is more in terms of talking. I think what we really need to do is walk the talk, because if UN reform, and we have been speaking about that for the last 20 years, and there is a written text, but we see as far as, let's say, the Japanese membership of the UN Security Council, Indian membership of the Security Council. There is only one country that opposes the permanent membership of that, and I don't need to name that particular country. Also mention has been made of free trade. Now we see, as far as Indian exports to China, and we've been taking it up so much, there are a whole host of NTBs, non-tariff barriers. So while we import more than $100 billion worth of goods from China, our exports to China are barely in the range of about $10 billion or so. So I think when we are talking about this, there is a necessity, if there are strategic ambitions, as you said, Madam Chair, in terms of becoming a hegemon to the world, I think we really need to see that there is more in terms of action than only words. Because there is, if China says it wants a multipolar world, it cannot be achieved by getting a unipolar Asia. A multipolar Asia is important, essential for getting a multipolar world. So I think these are some of the issues that need to be reflected upon, and we need to proceed on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Would you like to respond?
Thank you for your comments, Ambassador. And you mentioned a lot of things. The first one you mentioned, rebalancing of the world, right? And a lot of not only the major powers but also other countries, they would like to get their agency of their own, right? That's why we talk about strategic autonomies of these countries, right? So I think this is common ground for the many countries, and also for BRICS. We want to have a more just and fair international order, right? So that's why I say, although we have many obstacles and differences between our BRICS countries, we still have the same vision and same principles for the global governance and the global order. I think that's what we want for a stable world in the future. So I think in this way we should be positive and optimistic to this kind of groupings like BRICS. And you also mentioned China's actions in South China Sea. Okay, I should say, China insists that we have the historical rights in these waters of South China Sea, and actually. We should admit that we have many disputes with these ASEAN countries, and also you mentioned the militarized of Chinese navies, but we can also see the Western countries, many European countries, they send the warships to this area. So I think you can blame China as the militarized situation of this area. So this is kind of an outcome of a security dilemma in international relations. This is called a security dilemma, right? This is not only by China, but also by the mistrust of the major powers and the United States as the traditional hegemon of East Asia. It wants to protect its hegemon in this place. So that's why this regional order has been transformed. And I think this you can only put China's action as only a factor of this situation. So So it's very complicated. So that's why China accept the multilateral way to cooperate with ASEAN countries, right? To negotiate for the COC. It's like also like a regional order for the South China Sea, because sometimes disputations, territorial disputations are so complicated and difficult to deal with. So we should not just to focus on the disputation, but also we should to find some way to cooperate and to maintain the stability and peace for the whole region. Yeah. So I think that's why China has changed its way towards the ASEAN countries and to nurture a more solid and closer relations, not only in political but also in economic ways. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. But probably before proceeding to the next question, I will take a bit of a bilateral. And last year, before the actual expansion happened, I myself was talking, and it was a bit provocative, but I was saying, well, why not BRICS become the new P5?
Sorry.
Why not BRICS become the new P5? If we look at BRICS as a new model of cooperation on the international arena, there are more and more talks that yuan is not managing, and it's actually getting worse. And interestingly, I myself am saying that, well, this is the only universal organization we have. We cannot go away from it. But even with that said, more and more voices come out that say it's not working. And you heard, I don't know how much you followed Putin at Valdai. He said, well, he actually raised this point that this cannot go like this. It needs reform, proper reform. Although it is one of the P5, right? So maybe it could be a bit disastrous, but we should look into different options. And definitely we need to be more bold, but it will take time for countries to acknowledge this, for us not to find ourselves in the chaos. So, but probably something to elaborate on further on and think about the new P5. Thanks. So you want to ask the question?
Thank you very much. I'm Admiral Awal, a former ambassador and associated with the maritime think tank. What my point I am to make, that beyond Belt and Road, the Belt and Road is something built in your Chinese foreign policy, Xi Jinping's signature foreign policy. It is included in the Chinese constitution. I mean, beyond Belt and Road, what can be there? It's troubling for me to think. BRICS is a new phenomena, given the world disorder now, and the way President Biden had been trying to, in the name of rule-based international order, the way it has been moving to total chaos and disorder. I think that context, yes, bring the BRICS has the potential to bring some sanity, somebody to stand that no, this cannot go on. You can't have whatever you say that becomes your rule. But rule has to be, as you have rightly mentioned, it has to be under the UN Charter, under international law recognized by everybody, not your domestic law and then you impose on the worldwide. So that's a thing. But the Kazan, I think whatever has happened, but winner is Russia. Congratulations. It has shown that the isolation of the sanctions for Russia, it is imposed by the West. The rest of the world is not with it, but it will, the global South is with by articulation or by just sentiment. It's with the Russia, not with the war, but Russia as a good friend for Bangladesh. It is a friend of our liberation war, and Russia has connection with the global South in this way. So that's being said. So what I'm telling in the context of Indo-Pacific, so this is the area, the crisis that we face. Here, the Belt and Road, if I can recall, the Silk Road economic belt and the 21st century maritime Silk Road, the two components. The Silk Road, the belt part, the six corridor part, I don't think there is much of difference. That there is response from the West is build back better world or blue dot thing. There are, that's a good response. We can have better response. But the 21st century maritime Silk Road, that's the difficulty. And the Japanese friend, he has mentioned something, the objectives of Belt and Road Initiative. Your last point, that recognition of the Chinese Communist Party. I mean, that's Japanese view. But in a way, it exists because the Silk Road is an age-old thing. It's a benign trade route, there's no problem. But the world has not seen the maritime Silk Road because China never had the
maritime intervention or a maritime hegemon.
So this Belt Road has the Belt Road is the a point of contention. And if you look at the Indo-Pacific strategy, it's the backbone is the American air-sea battle in this area. That is the basis on which the pivot Asia came. Now the Indo-Pacific strategy. But what it says that for hegemon in the Indo-Pacific area, the American is to build up its air and sea battle, different from what is in Europe with the air-land battle, the battle being fought there. Here is the air-sea battle. That's why from the Indo-Pacific, Asia-Pacific, the geopolitical connotation has come, the Indo-Pacific. But here is the issue that, the response of the West is very, very stark when it comes to the sea part. We have seen the reaction of I think last week or this week, Xi Jinping has inaugurated the port in Peru, your China-funded port. So that's fine, but there is a severe reaction on that. So anything to do with the sea, with the port, with the maritime corridors, there's the difficulty. So in that context, West see India as a sweet spot, that India should be the conman for the containment policy. So that's as part of the Quad, that looks possible. But in practical terms, I think India with its the strategic autonomy, it has become quite a moving part in the Quad. So that is another dichotomy there. So how do you see this reconciliation of this thing in the Indo-Pacific, where you have the Western, particularly the American emphasis on a hegemonic on this sea area, on this Indo-Pacific area, and the Chinese concept of the Belt and Road. Is it possible to coexist the Indo-Pacific strategy? When I say strategy, Indo-Pacific strategy is the American strategy as per the US national security strategy. And the Belt and Road Initiative as it stands with the Chinese. Can they coexist? Because with that, the peace and progress, everything depends on in this area. And beyond that, going to the BRICS, yes, it can be a good platform for standing up to the West. But when it comes to the, its operationalization, the leadership will be a crucial issue. Will it be a complementary to G20, or you have mentioned, B5 or something like that? the leadership will be a big issue here. Who leads? Because of Russia, China, India. If the Russia and China gets together, that's one axis. And if the India wants to dominate, then becomes another issue. So with that, the core of the aims, the de-dollarization or the new bank that want to have, those could be a difficult thing. So my question is on that, the coexistence of BRI and Indo-Pacific strategy. Thank you.
Yeah, BRI and the Indo-Pacific strategy, can these two strategies coexist? Actually, it's already there, right? And the Indo-Pacific strategy has been formed, right, in 2017. And after that, China has met a lot of pressures from United States. United States think China is the only power who has the will and the capability to challenge the whole international order. But is that true? I doubt it, because you can see our Japanese colleague just mentioned, if there is no WTO, then there is no today's China. I agree, because China joined the WTO in 2001, and it has compromised a lot to United States to join the WTO. Why? Why China has to change a lot in the domestic system on the economic ways? Why it want to join this WTO? Because it want to engage with the Western international order, right? So it want to coexist with the United States. It not want to replace United States hegemony in this world. So what has changed? I think maybe when 2010, China replaced Japan as the second economy of the world. This is the changing point because of the power shift. So you can compare US policy toward Japan in 1980s and United States policy toward China now. In 1980s, Japan is the number 2, right, in the world. And the US take Japan as a threat. So no matter it is Western, it is in the Western world or not. When the emerging country has threatened US primacy, it wants to take it as its enemies. So I think this is the major point. In 2010, China became number 2. So that's why United States put China as its biggest challenger. So that's why there's many conflicts between these two countries, especially in Indo-Pacific. Why there's an Indo-Pacific strategy? You just mentioned 21st Silk Road. Because China don't have enough capacity to protect its maritime rights in its near region in South China Sea, in its nearest area. It wants to, when it gets stronger, it wants to protect its rights, its maritime rights. So this is opposite to US interests. It wants to maintain the primacy in this water. So it collaborated with Japan, with India, with Australia to contain China and to militarize Philippines, these countries to, I think this, so this is the background of Indo-Pacific strategy. it's a kind of a response of the United States to maintain its hegemony in this region. So I think maybe I agree with the policy of Mearsheimer, a very famous American scholar. His theory is offensive realism. And he said when the hegemon has felt the challenge from the emerging power to be a regional hegemon, it want to make some response to compete and to suppress this by strategies to maintain its primacy not only in the region and in the world. So this is the reality of United States and China, because China want to have its rights in its territorial waters and also in Taiwan issue, right? So, but it has challenged U.S. interests. So that's why this Indo-Pacific strategy become relevant in this region. So what we should do, I think BRI is more economic oriented. It wants to have more cooperation, right? More economic interactions with different countries, with neighboring countries. So this is kind of hedging to the Indo-Pacific strategy. For many countries like Bangladesh, it has its own Indo-Pacific strategy, right? But this strategy is mainly to focusing on the multi-facet policy. It's not to choose sides by China or United States. So this is a balancing act of the smaller countries. So I think this is rational for many countries to also to stabilize this coexistence of BRI and Indo-Pacific strategy. So that's why I say the developed country and the smaller country matters. Their agency matters. Yeah.
Now, very quickly on the Indo-Pacific, of course, India is not part of the BRI, but on the issue of Indo-Pacific, it doesn't want to be a kind of, should not be used, doesn't want to emerge as a country where it can be used by the US for its own strategic interest, because China and US are far from each other. We share border with China. So the kind of approach the American may have towards China, I don't think everything India agrees with. So therefore, on the one hand, while India is part of the Indo-Pacific and Quad, Quad is rather 4-country organization, it is also part of SCO and BRICS. So that, in a sense, it's a kind of multi-alignment in the, in the global politics, which is in a flux. So that actually provides a kind of elbow room to maneuver for any country in the world. I would say that. Thank you.
Thank you. And well, on a different note, to add to what you've also asked about how BRICS could be contributing to that. Each BRICS country is in fact very doesn't want to be part of something like a security gathering. So it is a comprehensive, it's security and global governance, it's economics and finance, and it's humanitarian cooperation. But probably it could be making sense for BRICS to look into some more security issues, not just stating that, okay, Gaza conflict should be ended this way and this way, but try to go into some joint exercises, I don't know, or joint, it's up to you to think. We have distinguished admiral, ambassadors, people who actually know more about things like that.
Security was a moot point this time.
Yeah. So yes, but probably there could be a way to go forward a bit more on that and have a bit more bravery in discussing those issues. So that's a suggestion for such strategic thinkers as yourself to think about and offer.
Thank you very much. But there was no such questions that I could ask the honorable speakers were talking about because I'm just a baby to learning about the geopolitics. I'm from the background of development and research studies, and as a new to this geopolitical issues, I would like to ask a very little question, and my question is directed to the representative of China, Japan, and India as well. As the leading turbulence of geopolitics right now, what do you see about the post SDG period to be concerned about? It can be according to the BRICS propositions or the geopolitical features that we want to change in the post SDG area, because we are very close to the SDG period to be ended by 2030, and many countries of BRICS and countries surrounding China, India, and Japan, we are falling behind that SDG targets. So what can be the strategic ambition for post SDG period for Japan, China, or India to influence the global community? I'm sorry, I'm turning the discussion from geopolitics to something more development in issues because that's my background.
Yeah, it's actually, the BRICS country have been emphasizing on inclusive growth and sustainable development, apart from many other issues which this organization takes up. I think as far as the SDG is concerned, many of the countries are lagging behind and trying to reach the specified thing by the UN. In the post SDG, it's very difficult to think of a post SDG. I think probably the issues which will emerge out of the SDG will be much more about the climate change, as I see it, and displacement, and therefore resulting in a kind of migration which actually will bring in again the same SDG issues to the table again. So I would say that it will be very, very challenging time unless until the climatic issues are addressed. I think that will lead to many of the SDG issues, coming up again in a very different manner, not in the same manner, not in the kind of goal which the UN has set, and developing countries are trying to achieve that particular goal, as you said, by 2030. So I would say that would be a major challenge. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Actually, I'm also worried about the post-SDG period because when Trump come back, the higher tariff will turbulence the trade system. Recently, I have a meeting in China, and an economist. She said we are coming to a period of low growth, and the growth style of American dream and Chinese dream can't be used can't copied by other developing countries. So we are coming to a turbulent time, right? And like China, we grow by trade, by the manufacturing. But this kind of road for modernization can't be copied by other countries. So because of the whole environment, it can't allow the countries to have more free trade. We will face a lot of challenges in economic area. So I'm also a little pessimistic. Yeah.
Thank you. Because maybe time is running out, so very quick 2 comments. One, I am surprised because you are talking about the post SDGs period or something like that. Japan. I'm from Japan. Japan is something like the postmodern society, but nobody talks about the post SDGs, period. So I am surprised. And number two, I think actually we previously and Victoria talked about any implications or lessons from Japan's, bubble economy's collapse. I think why Japan's, back to late 1980s to early 1990s, Japan's economy was collapsed. The property price and Japan's economy, and basically at the same time the Cold War, system was collapsed. So some reasons are internal, some reasons are from external, international relations and Japan's own system or market situation. But if I can, at the moment, I can provide some lessons reflecting Japan's failure. I think 3 things. One is reluctant to learn. We need to learn what other nations experienced previously. Right? So we were overconfident. We were in the bubble. Not only our economy, but our mind in the bubble. That's why we are overconfident Japan could be growing up eternally. So that was a very psychological reason why Japan failed. And number 2, we were very reluctant to innovate yourself. You were arrogance. So a lot of reasons are from psychological, arrogant, overconfident. And third, basically no, target to, she said, copy, but catching up, no target to catch up. Now, including China, maybe Bangladesh, you are a newcomer. You are catching up. You have some targets. But at that time, Japan, didn't seem like, we go as an Asian country. Of course, we are different from Westerners, like the United Kingdom, United States, and their industrial revolution. But that was different from Japan, from Japanese perspective. We are more homogeneous, Eastern Ireland, right? And we were the loser of the World War II, right? So very unique country. So we are just moving forward without any target. That's why please learn something from that experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I want to appeal to one of the previous comments and questions, saying that, and actually many of the speakers touched upon this, that expanding, we became even more diverse than before. We were diverse before, but now even worse. But there's one thing that we never break, and actually it helps us being diverse. We have this culture of negotiation and culture of non-dictating. Like for example, you're already in this mode. I'm the moderator. I know we have 6 minutes more. I'm not dictating, right? So this is their habit from the West that's very pervasive. We don't have it in BRICS. So this is mutual respect and mutually equally respectful position. So this is why we will never lose this culture of negotiation. Being very diverse, we will never turn into hierarchical society that is led by one country or group of countries. We will have our own pragmatic, call it strategic autonomy, call it the way you want. But with the country, because when we talk about global south, we call it world majority or global majority, because like Russia is in the north, geographically. But we don't belong to the north geopolitically. So that's why we prefer saying global majority. But definitely BRICS as a very inclusive, as opposed to the G7, by the way. I remember how Russia was treated back then. So we're very inclusive, not exclusive club. This is important. That's why even though there is a certain stop or not stopover in terms of expansion, we will definitely be open to the world. But last quick question to all speakers before we wrap up. So who you think would be the first country from the collective West that would learn to be non-dictative and will break the ranks and apply for BRICS? So with this note, allow me to finish our really wonderful discussion. Thank our speakers for their outstanding speeches, performances, and their answers. Thank you so much. And to you for being such a wonderful audience. Thank you.